Welcome to another episode of Riding and Wrenching, the biggest little YouTube channel on the entire interwebs. I am your host, Q the Rider, and in today's episode, I'm going to give you a rundown of my first long distance ride on the new CVO. Got some good things to share, a lot of lessons learned, and a few things I discovered about this bike that I don't like very much. So let's go ahead and jump into it, and no particular order, as I've just got them all written down here. And so you'll kind of figure out whether or not it's a like or dislike as I talk about it. First thing is the cruise control. So cruise control, it's right here. All right, so it's the left button that's on top of the left-hand control. I thought it was going to be a pain to use it just because it's different. I was so accustomed to the cruise control on my old bike. I don't like for things to change, but this actually wasn't a big deal. It's just a complete non-event having it on top of the hand control versus facing the driver the way it is on the prior generation bikes. Now, what is a problem is the throttle. Now, on the prior bikes and on this one as well, you can cancel the cruise control by rolling back on the throttle. Well, on this bike, I think they changed the throttle because there's not as much play. It's a very slight bump of the throttle that cancels the cruise control. The problem with that is that if you are holding on to the grip, cruise control is set, and you hit a bump in the road, you can cancel the cruise control by mistake. And it happened more than once. It happened several times. It was kind of annoying. It got to the point that if I saw a bump coming, I would just let the throttle go so that I didn't accidentally cancel the cruise control. Now, in all honesty, that did not happen every time I hit a bump in the road, but it happened several times, and it was enough to become annoying. Let's see, what else? Oh, man. All right, so let me tell you a little bit about where I went. I rode from Memphis to Atlanta, Georgia. It's almost 400 miles from my house to where I was going, another 400 miles coming back. The seat on this bike is hard. It's not comfortable at all for me. I prefer softer seats. I know there are people that don't like soft seats. I don't know why, but I like my seat to be a little bit soft. I'm not interested in using my butt to break in a seat. I want it already broken in when I got it. This seat is hard, and I really don't like it. And what's more frustrating is that I tried to take the seat off of my old Road Glide, and I was going to put it on here for this trip because the seat on my 18 Road Glide, I would put it up against anybody's seat. My seat is comfortable and I absolutely love it, and I want the exact same thing on this bike, so I was just going to pop it on here for the trip. I couldn't get it to fit, so that was a little bit frustrating, and I'll go over that in a future video. But the seat is hard on this bike. I don't like it at all. I like the way it looks. I just don't, it's too hard for me. I don't do hard seats. All right, the next one, the on-off switch. Again, now we're going to talk about the right-hand control. And the problem with it is that I accidentally turned my bike off on the freeway, going freeway speeds, several times. And the way that happens is, maybe you're just riding with one hand, you're riding with one hand on the handlebar, and you go to reach up to put your hand back on the throttle, the cruise control is set, and it's so easy to just bump that rocker switch and turn the bike off. The first time it happened to me, it kind of freaked me out because I'm like, whoa, my bike's losing power, and I didn't know what was going on. And I'm like, wait a minute, the bike's turned off. Hit the switch and it comes right back on, motor fires right back up, and you keep going about your way. But it happened several times. Now, on my old Road Glide, as well as my Street Glide, that never happened. And now, what I discovered is that the rocker switch on the new bike, I don't know how to describe it, but it's just a softer switch. It doesn't take as much effort to turn the bike off. And I just checked my old Road Glide prior to recording this video, and it takes a little bit more effort. In other words, you're not going to accidentally hit that button just rubbing your finger across it and turn it off. This one you will. And again, it happened to me, gosh, just over this weekend, I'm going to say 4 or 5 times. It's just something where I'm going to have to train myself to not hit that button. Now, I think there's a couple of things they could do to address that. Either have a little, require a little bit more force to hit that button, or you can switch the hazard button and the power button so that you don't accidentally turn the bike off. I actually think that's kind of a safety thing, but the button's just too soft. It's too easy to turn off while the bike is moving. So I didn't like that. I'll probably adjust to that, but it's just something to be aware of. Next thing, I've heard from many, many people that you cannot put highway pegs on chopped engine guards. I've got highway pegs on my chopped engine guards. These highway pegs this is a Harley Davidson part. It's easy. So all the naysayers saying you can't put highway pegs on here, you can. They fit. The radio, no, I'm sorry, let's talk about the windscreen first. The stock windscreen, I've already replaced it on this bike. I did the 12-inch windscreen. I'm going to do a separate video just talking about this windscreen. But for this long trip, I learned a lot about this windscreen. Some of it I like, some of it I don't like. But the taller windscreen, it's nice, but it's too tall for me. So I got the 12-inch screen. I'm 6'2". So if you're thinking about getting or replacing the windscreen on your bike, I would encourage you to get the 10-inch windscreen instead of the 12-inch. On Harley's website, they say the 12-inch windscreen is ideal for people my height. I disagree. That 10-inch windscreen will probably be a lot better. Now let's talk about the radio. It's way too quiet. Oh, man, even with the taller windscreen, initially I was happy with it because I could actually hear it. With the stock windscreen, couldn't hear the radio at all. With the taller windscreen, I could hear it, but now on a long distance trip, it's still not good enough. I don't know how I'm going to fix this problem. I've watched a couple of other YouTube videos and they talk about the way this system is. I guess it's not easy to add an amplifier. I don't know. I'm not an audiophile, so I don't know what it's going to take to get a little bit more power out of the speakers on this bike, but something has to be done. It's just way too quiet. At times it was completely worthless. At times you could actually hear okay, and then other times I couldn't hear crap, and it was frustrating. The infotainment screen is freaking awesome. It's very bright. I rode on my way down to Atlanta. Stupid me, I left at 12:30 in the afternoon. It was 100 degrees. Oh my God. 6 hours and 100 degrees. I don't recommend it. That sucked. But in that bright sun, I had no problem with the touchscreen. You can see it very well. It's really bright. Harley did a phenomenal job with the touchscreen. It's good. It's really, really good. Apple CarPlay. I own stock in Apple, and I've owned stock in Apple for a long time. I've been a big fan of Apple since the 80s. I am not a fan of Apple right now because Apple CarPlay is hit or miss on this bike. I can get it to work, but you have to have the Sena headset with you. Of course, the battery died halfway down to Atlanta, and I didn't even bother charging it because I just didn't want to deal with it. It's a pain. Now, what I think I'm going to do for future long distance trips, I'm going to bring a portable battery supply and plug the thing up and then drop it into the tour pack. This way I don't have to worry about the battery dying, halfway down my trip. So that was a little frustrating to me. I really feel like that whole microphone thing is kind of silly on a motorcycle. That's ridiculous. The only thing I really want Apple CarPlay for is to put my navigation map on the big touchscreen. And it would also be nice to have the track information and all of that, but technically I can get that with USB. The only thing I really want is my navigation map or my Apple Maps on the screen. Not having Apple CarPlay is a disincentive to even use Apple Maps. So if they don't come up with a workaround for this, maybe I'll just start using a different navigation software. Maybe I'll use the stock navigation in here or something and just get used to that. But I just like using Apple Maps because it's on my phone. All right, here's an interesting one. Refueling the bike. Now this capless, well, it's not technically capless, but the fuel tank, you just kind of pull it back with a cap and it pops open. You have no fuel cap to worry about losing or dropping or anything like that. That's a win. What I learned is that I can't fill up this bike the way I would have filled up my older Road Glide. And what I mean by that, when I would fill up my old Road Glide, I would top it off. I mean, to where gas is almost spilling out of the tank. And you're shaking the bike a little bit to get the air bubbles out. And I would keep filling it up because I want every drop of gas in my bike possible. I tried that on this bike and it's not a good idea because I discovered that if you overfill the tank, you're going to have gas pouring out of what I believe are the little vent tubes on the bottom, and you have a nice little puddle of gas underneath your bike because you're trying to top it off. So I stopped doing that. But as a result, it was, I don't know, I just like topping my tank off because I've run out of gas before. So every drop of gas counts to me. But that's something I'll get used to, and I'll try to figure that out. And maybe we'll talk about that in a future video. Now, speaking of gas, the fuel economy on this thing is pretty good. I'm going to guess that I was getting an additional 20 miles per tank compared to my old bike. And I think that's pretty good. I was pretty happy with that. And it's noticeable by getting more miles between fill-ups. Now, this seat is so hard, I was looking forward to getting off the bike at the gas fill-ups, but I like getting the extra fuel economy. That's kind of nice, especially since you get power and the fuel economy. However, if your speed is, say, 20 miles over the limit, your fuel economy is gonna suck, as you would expect. My tour pack. Bam! It arrived one day before my trip, which was great because I wasn't planning on having it, but it showed up and I was grateful that I had it. The only downside, it has the quick release docking station on here, and I was afraid it was going to get stolen. So I did find a lock for it, so I'll get that installed, and I'm going to do a separate video on the tour pack once I get the rest of the accessories for it. But this is the tour pack from Harley, and it's freaking awesome. So I've got some other accessories for the tour pack. I'm going to do speaker pods, but I don't know how I'm going to hook the speakers up now. I don't know how that's going to work. Also, a brake light and a tour pack liner from AdvanBlack. And those things are awesome. I love those AdvanBlack tour pack liners. So we're going to put one in here. So looking forward to that. And then I also have to do something with the cover for the passenger backrest there because it doesn't match the seat. But since I have to change the seat anyway, I got to decide what I'm going to do about the rider seat first, and then we'll do something with the backrest or the passenger backrest on the tour pack. You can't talk about this bike without talking about the engine and the power and how smooth it is and how effortless it is to pass. And you just twist the throttle and you go. I found that I was downshifting on my 18 Road Glide, even with the Stage 2. I just downshifted automatically, so I would know I would have more power on tap. But this one, more often than not, I did not need a downshift. You just twist the throttle and go. The engine power is super smooth. It's really quiet. It's really, really quiet. In fact, it's so quiet that I was guessing when to shift. On my 18 Road Glide, it's so loud, the exhaust is telling you when to shift because the engine is screaming and you can hear it. On this one, you can't. I hit red line. Man, should I confess that on the video? I hit red line a few times, just pushing it a little bit hard. It's not going to hurt it, I don't think. But I've just got to train my brain when to shift because you don't get the feedback, the audio feedback, or not the audio, but the exhaust feedback that you might otherwise use to help you decide when you're going to shift. All right, so on the infotainment screen, there's several options on the right for bike information, your trip meters, which is neat because it also displays your fuel economy. It displays the temperature, the ambient temperature outside, as well as the temperature of, I believe, the coolant, because this is a water-cooled bike, but it might be the oil temperature. I'm not sure. I'll display it on the screen here once I look it up during editing. But that's actually neat information to know. So the temperature of the bike fluctuated between 215 degrees when it was cooler outside, about 80. And when it was 100 degrees, it showed the temperature rose as high as about 245 to 250. So that's neat information to know. So as I get used to what those numbers are going to look like, if something is abnormal, it'll stand out to me and I'll know. Also the tire pressure monitoring, it lists the actual tire pressure as well as the target tire pressure. So that really helps you get a gauge on whether or not you have your tires overinflated or underinflated. So that's just good information to know, and it's a good safety thing as well. A backrest. So I talked about the seat, but I did not talk about the backrest. I don't have a backrest on this bike. And I bought a backrest from Amazon, and it doesn't fit. I did not find one on Harley's website. Maybe they'll come out with one, or maybe the aftermarket will come out with one. But I thought this was a common CVO seat. I didn't think it was something new for this bike, but I don't have a backrest. Now, fortunately, I was able to put my luggage here, and my luggage, I was able to use that as a backrest, and it turned out to be pretty comfortable. And had I had a comfortable seat, it would have been an amazing ride. The handlebars are nice. I really like the height of these bars. I don't know if I like the way they look, so I'm still going to change them out, but the height is perfect for me. I really like them. All right, so there's this review of my trip. It was a good trip. The bike performed well. I have a couple more videos that I'm going to be producing this week. I'm going to talk about a couple of issues that I had while I was in Atlanta. Had an opportunity to visit a couple of dealerships there. I went to Thunder Tower West Harley Davidson, that's in Morrow, Georgia. And I also visited, a dealership east of Atlanta off of I-20, and the name is escaping me. Anyway, while I was there, I ran into Sensei from Ride Fit Nation. What's up, man? It was great to see you again. Also bumped in, at Thunder Tower, I bumped into Terrence, a subscriber to the channel. We also met at Run to the Hills. It was great to see you as well. So it's just really all in all a fun trip, and I'll have some more videos coming out over the coming days about the bike and just different things that are going on with it. Be sure to check out the Facebook group, 2023 Harley CVO. We've got over, I think we're coming up on 150 subscribers to the channel or to that Facebook group. A lot of owners of the CVOs, and you'll get an opportunity to interact with them and learn more about these bikes from people who actually own them or are riding them every day. So definitely check that out. A link to the Facebook group will be in the description of this video. This is Q. I'm riding, I'm wrenching, and I am out.
The biggest little
Just lip sync it.
The
biggest YouTube channel on the entire
biggest little YouTube.
Yeah,
You already messed it up.
Ready?
The biggest little YouTube channel on YouTube. Riding and Richard. Trust me.
Biggest and littlest channel on YouTube?
Something like that.
What's the name of the channel again?
It doesn't matter what the